Before she passed, my dear friend, Judy, played matchmaker, connecting me with a man she believed could be the one for me in her final days. It was a gesture I never expected, one last act of kindness before she left this world. Her health had been faltering for some time, but I had no one to share this story with. Judy had become a companion in the truest sense, someone who made a significant impact in my life during our brief friendship. On June 13, 2024, I met her at a writing group, though she was 95 and I was 62. Yet, we shared an instant connection. I visited her apartment a few times, helped her with her computer, and felt a bond that transcended our years. She confided in me one day about the medication she was taking, how it was making her feel nauseous, and eventually revealed the truth. She had cancer. Cancer, she called it. Her strength, her quiet grace in the face of this disease, stunned me. But still, she carried on. She had even published a book of poetry, and in early May, I attended her book launch party, a celebration of a life well lived despite its hardships. At the event, I met Mike, a friend of Judy's, and a man around my age. I found him instantly attractive, not just because of his looks, but because of the intelligence he carried in his words. There was a chemistry between us that I couldn't deny. When I asked Judy about him, she said he was single, and that he had always been such a great friend to her. She often praised him, saying he was kind, intelligent, and someone who would always be there when needed. But when I tried to flirt with him, I found myself lost in embarrassment. He was already deep in conversation with another woman, discussing publishing, and I couldn't help but feel out of place. I excused myself, leaving in silence, my thoughts heavy with regret. Then, yesterday, I received an email that left me speechless. It was from someone in our writing group, informing me of Judy's decision to end her life. She had suffered a stroke 2 weeks ago, and her condition had worsened. Medical assistance in dying is legal in Canada, and Judy had chosen to end her pain, surrounded by her family. I was shocked. She seemed so full of life the last time we spoke. But as I read the words, I realized that this was the end of an era. I decided to call her. A final goodbye, or so I thought. We had a warm conversation, and she assured me that she was at peace with her choice. She said she was happy with the decision she'd made. In a way, it gave me comfort, knowing that Judy had found peace. I told her that I believed her late husband would be there waiting for her, to guide her to the other side. But the thought that I would never see her again, it hit me hard. Just when I thought that chapter was closed, the phone rang again, and it was Judy. She wanted me to have Mike's phone number. Apparently, he had asked about me. He thought I was a nice person, and he wanted to know more. I explained how I had felt embarrassed at the book launch, but Judy found it funny, even cute. She told me he had mentioned me several times, and now, she was playing matchmaker one last time. She gave me his number and asked me to call him. She was certain we'd be a good match. My heart fluttered. What a final, beautiful gesture, her way of bringing two souls together before she departed. I promised to call Mike, but I told her I'd wait about a week before doing so. I didn't want to rush anything, not with everything that was happening. Still, a part of me hoped that something wonderful could come from it. I had been feeling so lonely, and the idea of a partner in my life had never seemed so appealing. I had never experienced something quite like this. Mike and I sat there, the envelope between us, uncertainty thick in the air. He had asked if I wanted to wait until another time to open it, but I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't going to wait. No, he said firmly, I want to open it right now. I need to see what she's up to. So, I sat beside him, and together, we tore open the envelope. His prediction was spot on. Inside was a beautifully handwritten note from Judy, along with a stack of cash, $4.50, to be exact. The note was simple, yet deeply heartfelt. I love you forever and ever. Please, go and have a nice supper. Her words were a mix of warmth and finality, a final act of love before leaving this world. I chuckled softly. Well, there are several nice places to eat around here. He smiled at that, but his eyes lingered on the money. I don't want it, he said, his tone resolute. I nodded, understanding his reluctance, but I couldn't bring myself to refuse. Neither do I said. But if we take it back to her apartment, her son will get it tomorrow. I paused, thinking. She wanted us to have it, Mike. We should keep it. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Put it in your handbag, he said. Let's leave it with you. We finished our coffee, the envelope now tucked safely away in my bag. Before we left, I wrapped him in a warm hug. I'll call you, he promised. We'll go out for dinner soon. As we parted, our conversation shifted to Judy. We both agreed on one thing: what an extraordinary person she had been. How much we would miss her. I called Judy later that afternoon to tell her how everything had unfolded. She seemed pleased, her voice warm and content. I'm so glad, she said. And Mike will call me later today, won't he? I reassured her, telling her he would. The final moments of her life were approaching, and her family would be there with her. We all lose people, but Judy was a rare soul. 3 days later, the world felt a little different. Judy was gone now, transcended. But her final act had changed everything for me. Mike and I had been talking on the phone every day, sometimes more than once, and texting in between. I couldn't help but be astonished at how quickly things had changed. We clicked, and I was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, something wonderful was on the horizon. That Sunday, we went to an IMAX movie together. It felt like a first step into something new, something exhilarating. Afterward, I invited him to join me and my friends for our regular Sunday pub afternoon. I'd love to, he said, a smile in his voice. We both agreed to see where this connection would take us. I was still processing it all. But for the first time in a long while, the world seemed brighter. And it felt like the universe had a hand in bringing Mike and me together. Could it be fate? Or just chance? Either way, I was ready to see what came next. The updates kept flowing in, from people who had been following this story with bated breath, and I couldn't help but feel the warmth in their words. I'm so happy for you, one commenter wrote. This is such a beautiful story. I'm still crying for Judy. Another said, Judy sounds like the kind of person we all need in our lives. Rest in peace, Judy. Her presence, though gone, still filled the spaces around us. By June 22nd, 2024, 9 days after I had opened the envelope, so much had changed. Mike and I were officially a couple now. We had been seeing each other every other day, and last night, things had shifted in a way that made it clear we were no longer just friends. We had a lot in common, and the chemistry was undeniable. I could hardly believe how my life had turned around in just 1 week. A week ago, I had felt lost, lonely, sad, stuck in a routine. Now, I was filled with energy, excitement, and a renewed sense of purpose. I was happy. More than that, I was grateful. Grateful for Judy, for the love and wisdom she had shared with me, and for the incredible gift she had given me, Mike. I'm so happy for you, one commenter wrote. You never know what life has planned for us. Another commented, this is just the beginning of something beautiful. As I looked ahead, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held. A few comments under the post perfectly encapsulate the essence of the story, touching on themes of remembrance, fate, and love that transcends time. In the Jewish tradition, we do not say rest in peace. Instead, we say Zet or Zron Ra, which translates to may their memory be a blessing. To me, that sentiment resonated deeply, and I couldn't help but feel like Judy's legacy mirrored that same idea. Even though I don't follow Westworld, there's a phrase from it that always stood out to me: you live as long as the last person who remembers you. It's such a powerful concept, isn't it? How long do we last, truly, if no one remembers us? What does it mean to leave an impact on the world? Even more poignant, though, is that this line is spoken by a robot, one who achieves sentience after realizing his fellow robots are being erased, wiped clean of memories, and replaced by newer versions of themselves. The robot makes a commitment to preserve the memories of those who love them, to keep their stories alive, to ensure they're never forgotten. It's a gut-wrenching realization, a commitment to remembering for those who can no longer remember themselves. And the episode? Suya, largely performed in Lakota, is one of the most striking pieces of television I've ever seen. It appears, at first, to be a simple bottle episode, one centered on a secondary character, but by the end, it reveals itself as the emotional anchor of everything. One commenter, moved by the depth of Judy's story, wrote, "Judy sounds like the best kind of person. I hope her passing was peaceful, and that she was surrounded by love." Their compassion was felt deeply, as they shared their hope that Judy's final moments were filled with peace. But then, the commenter asked something that caught my attention. Given her love of writing, is there a significance to the date she chose? It's Bloomsday from Ulysses. I thought that was a sweet coincidence for a book lover. Maybe it wasn't a coincidence at all. The thought lingered with me. Could Judy have chosen that day on purpose? Could it have been more than just a simple passage of time? A nod to one of her favorite literary works? A secret, beautiful tribute that only she would know? Another commenter, acknowledging the emotional weight of the situation, offered this: "For anyone who's doubting whether or not to read this, this is the saddest, most heart-wrenching story on Reddit." I'm not exaggerating. It's the kind of story that you find in nearly every thread about sad stories, and for good reason. It felt raw and real, resonating with so many who had followed along. Someone else expressed a comforting sentiment. "I want to believe that, given their ages, life experiences, and the lighthearted nature surrounding Judy's passing, they weren't feeling any undue pressure." It doesn't seem like the original poster saw this as Judy's final wish, but more as a friend trying to play matchmaker during what happened to be the last chapter of her life. Judy's intentions were clear: to bring some joy and companionship to her friends. It's heartwarming to see such efforts, regardless of how things turn out. I'm rooting for them, and I hope they find happiness together. Then, a commenter shared their own sense of satisfaction with the story's progression. "I'm so glad this was the last unread Best of Redditor updates I had. I never stop after the palate cleansers, even when I know I should. Thank you to the gods of Best of Redditor updates. I'm so glad Judy got to choose how and when she wanted to go, did one last bit of matchmaking, and is now with her loved ones on the other side. May we all be so fortunate, cancer aside, of course." And with that final thought, it hit me again: Judy had chosen her exit. She made the choice to leave on her own terms, to live out her final days with purpose. To bring love into the lives of those she cherished. She wasn't just fading away, she was leaving a legacy, a reminder that life, no matter how brief, can be full of meaning, connections, and second chances.